Hello, everyone. My name's Skylar Reap. I'm a senior IS student at Coastal Carolina University, and this is my Cycle 1 project for CSCI-495, the IS Capstone. In this course, we're expected to build 6 projects in 8-hour rapid development cycles, and this is my first project. So this is a fictional startup landing page for a company called CodeCrash, which is a social network company. And I built this with HTML for the structure, CSS for the design elements, Bootstrap for the responsive elements, and Rellax.js for the parallax scrolling. And when I started this project, I had 2 big design requirements. One was that I develop it mobile first. I know that's a critical skill for me to have as I go into the workforce, and I hadn't done a mobile first project yet, so this is my first foray into it, and I think it went really well. The other big design requirement that I had was parallax scrolling. I had some inspiration for this project that I'm about to show you. This is a web design from a company in England called Studio Vor, and this was my inspiration for using the parallax scrolling. You can see they use custom artwork, which really adds a lot to it, but these are image layers that each scroll at different speeds to give it this neat 3-dimensional effect. So you can see the background scrolls very slowly, whereas the foreground scrolls very quickly. So that was what I was going for. Obviously, I didn't have time to make beautiful artwork that works this way, but I thought, if nothing else, I could make a design that was similar, and that way maybe down the line when I have time to make some artwork, I could build something this incredible. So this is hosted on Dribbble. If you're a designer and you're interested in getting some inspiration, I highly recommend the site. I learned a lot with this project. One, I had never made a fleshed out GitHub README, so this was my first time doing that. I figured out how to put a cool little GIF in the preview section. Since it's a front-end project, I thought that was a nice little touch. And I'll go ahead and mention another thing that I learned. As I started finishing my project, I wanted to share it on social media to get some feedback from my friends on how it worked with their mobile browsers. And when I started sharing things, I was just getting a gray pane here instead of an image preview. So I got to learn all about Open Graph meta tags, and now I have those built into my site so that you get this nice colorful preview across several different social networks when you go to share it. While we're on the subject of Facebook, it also ended up being my #1 debugging issue, because when I sent it over Messenger or even just in a newsfeed, if you opened it from Facebook's in-app mobile browser, which is a feature of their mobile applications, it would squeeze the website even more than what you would expect when building for a mobile site. So I found that every time it was open in Facebook's in-app browser, which was pretty frequently if I'm sharing it on Facebook, the people who were receiving it saw it just terribly skewed. Everything was shifted to the right and it looked terrible. It took a couple hours of debugging, but I've got it now where it looks really nice, even when it's shared via cell phone and opened in their in-app browser. So those were some cool things that I learned. We'll jump over here to the the Rellax.js GitHub demo. Again, you can see a nice demo of parallax scrolling at work. These elements move faster and slower to give it this cool 3D effect. I highly recommend this library. It is really smooth even on mobile, and that was a big requirement for me. A lot of times when you see these nice parallax sites in the wild, they either don't work, and it'll just tell you to access it from a desktop computer, or it'll redirect you to a mobile site that has had the parallax taken out. So it was a nice little challenge to try to make that feature look good and perform well on mobile, and it absolutely succeeded with this Rellax.js library. So I highly recommend it. And yeah, we'll jump into the demo here. So this is CodeCrash. I'll just go element by element to point out a few things. #1, the first feature that you can see that uses the parallax scrolling is the title. As you scroll down, you can see the title and the button scroll with you. Just a little bit. I didn't want it to be overwhelming, but that's the first example of parallax. This is a modified Bootstrap Navigation menu and a Bootstrap button. So if we scroll down, I've got a background texture here, and you'll see 4 Bootstrap cards scroll into view. And again, these are using parallax so that they move at a different scroll speed than the background image. And you can see I've made them a little bit opaque so that you can see that pattern actually scroll behind it. It adds a little more to that 3D design. And to go along with that 3D design, I've also added a CSS shadow around each of these Bootstrap cards. And these are heavily modified Bootstrap cards. All the formatting's basically taken out and replaced with my own. And then when you hover over it, you get some nice user interaction. That background shadow changes to a neon blue. And then you get something similar when you hover over these individual icons. They transform and scale up as well as change color. I was going for a retro feel, hence the purple and orange and neon blues. And I think it came out really well. So we'll keep going down here. This is a Bootstrap carousel that's been modified as well. It's got a custom CSS gradient for the background, buttons that'll take you through the testimonials, and then indicators at the bottom to show you which testimonial you're on. This, as well as most elements on the page, are nested in fluid containers from Bootstrap so that it resizes dynamically. So if we scroll down here, I've just got some fictional press that a startup website might have received and how they might display it. And you can see these are transparent PNG images so that you can see, again, that background pattern move behind it. Just adding another example of that three-dimensional design. I was really trying to emphasize that. Then down here at the bottom, in my final section, again, we've got a custom CSS gradient and two more Bootstrap cards that scroll up with your Rellax.js. And again, these have CSS shadows that get this nice neon blue color, and our icons all scale up and change color. These are all functional. They'll take you to my personal pages. And then my little tagline here at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and scale this down for a tablet size so that you can see how it changes with Bootstrap. So the first thing you'll notice is this Bootstrap navigation bar changes to a hamburger menu right here. So you can see our different sections pop out of there. And as I mentioned, these works will go down here. And this is Bootstrap's grid system at work. So you might remember that these cards were a single row before. Now they're two rows, and they have gotten bigger to fill up this viewport nicely. So that's the first example of a change, other than the fluid containers resizing things. Otherwise, everything stays the same. It all keeps its functionality regardless of what mobile browser you're on. That was a big goal for me. So yeah, we'll shrink that up and go ahead and jump down to mobile, which is how the site was originally designed. And you'll see right here, I have a media query that changes the font size dramatically. I found that after I designed this mobile page and scaled it up for tablet and desktop, the title font was very underwhelming. So I needed a media query to scale it up. And there are a couple other media queries in the code to fix a couple of elements as they get larger. But we'll scroll down here and show you this few changes that it makes when it moves from tablet to phone size. Again, pointing out the Bootstrap grid system, you can see that what had been a single row and then two rows is now one column. And they fill up most of the viewport on cell phone. That looks nice. Again, on mobile browsers, you still get this effect where they're scrolling at different speeds. The opacity, the user interaction with the transform properties is all still there. And then if we get down here, the carousel has stayed the same. You notice it's just formatted a little better for that tiny screen. And then again, with the Bootstrap grid system, this has switched to a single column where it had been two columns. And then finally, again, with the Bootstrap grid system, these have been a row and are now stacked. So that's my website. I really wanted to build something that I thought looked nice enough to be featured in a professional portfolio, and I think I succeeded there. But I look forward to hearing your criticism and feedback so that I can improve upon it and make it even better. So thank you for taking the time to watch my video and looking at my site, and I look forward to seeing you next week.